Welcome to Real Inside Sales Talk with Mark and Jason, episode 12. Welcome to Real Inside Sales Talk with Mark and Jason. How are you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing good, Jason. How are you, man?
I'm wonderful, my friend. I'm wonderful. It's good to see you again, get to talk. Let's talk some real inside sales. How's your day been?
Wow, started out a little slow, but towards the end of the day, it picked up, and I'm going to admit to it, I lucked out, and I got a little bit of business.
Luck is always a good thing to have. That's when opportunity and experience come together to meet. So good for you, my friend. I've been busy as always, certainly plugging things away. And I've got to thank everybody out there for downloading our episodes. This is going to be episode 12 of Real Inside Sales Talk with Mark and Jason. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher out there. Today, Mark, we're going to talk about a couple of different things today. We're going to talk about just kind of the different points of view of people on a team. We're going to talk about managing that database out there without getting too deep in the weeds of CRMs necessarily. And I'm excited. I'm excited about today's episode.
Yeah, me too. And another thing we're going to talk about is the expectations that are set for the teammates. You might have a really loyal employee, but they do really bad.
Right.
And it's not worth keeping them because they're really loyal, but the ROI just isn't there.
Right.
Or you might have that person that you just can't stand, but they generate a lot of business, so you kind of have to keep that person.
That you do. Well, and that's just it. You've got to know when to cut your losses at times. It's just like with knowing what's a good lead. If a lead's not a good lead, you got to know when to cut, when again to just kind of eliminate them for your database and not focus on them, because you can use a lot of energy on not focusing on qualified, candidates, qualified employees, qualified leads, qualified clients, prospects.
And that leads to the question, what is a lead? A lot of people classify a lead as just either a working phone number or a valid email address. Well, there's a couple different ways that you can categorize leads, and one of the ways I like to categorize it is a working phone number, a name that matches it.
Right.
It doesn't have to have an email, but that's beneficial. But they also have to have showed some sort of interest in the product that I sell.
Exactly, Mark. And you were definitely right. I'm glad you mentioned that, because we're going to talk more about that in today's episode. Real Inside Sales Talk with Mark and Jason, and let's get right into it with the show today, folks.
Yeah.
And Mark, what do you got to talk about? I was excited about this idea. It's very perplexing. It's is something you don't talk about a lot. People aren't aware of. They just kind of go along in their day-to-day existence, and you don't really think about it necessarily in kind of a broad view. And that's just the roles of people on a team. And just tell me your idea.
Well, on a 7th level team, your real estate team is going to be divided in many directions. You're going to have all your key players in the right positions, kind of like chess. Like me, I'm the telemarketer guy, right? At 13 years experience, I have no problem picking up a phone.
Right.
So obviously the best position for me is going to be
slinging on the phones every day.
Slinging on the phones and teaching other salesmen how to sling on the phones as well.
Right. Exactly.
And that's where your management experience kicks in.
Yep.
And then, for example, my strongest point isn't contracts. It could be if I, put forth the effort.
Right.
But I've got to put so much effort towards the ISA position or OSA position that really just consumes all my time.
Right.
Like you could have a real contract coordinator talk and it'd just be all about contracts.
Right.
And here, it's just all ISA, OSA, telemarketing. I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of different types of sales, but going back to the team, for example, let's say I call it for sale by owner. They're very difficult to talk with. I set up an appointment. A listing agent goes out there, comes back, says, wow, that was the hardest appointment I've ever been on. I got the guy listed, but he's going to be difficult to work with.
Oh, no.
Well, then the contract coordinator or anyone else that has to follow up with him weekly, let him know what's going on the showing reports and all that fun stuff. Right. They're going to have to deal with them.
Right.
So I'm kind of lucky that I only have to deal with the difficult customers once, twice, maybe a few times, because I don't really nurture a client that's difficult to work with,
right?
Because I want to build relationships that are positive and easy to work with. I don't want to have to beg for your business.
You pass that on down the chain to the agents and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and so it's like, oh, you had to deal with that guy again?
No.
Let me buy your lunch.
Right, exactly. Now, but it's not like you come across, horrible people every time. Let's just make that clear out there. We're salespeople. Majority of people we come across are pleasant, good-natured, lovable people. But let's because I understand what you're saying. There's been times where you go out and somebody sets an appointment and your expectations are one thing. You get there the people say something completely different. Or let's just even get beyond that. Let's say you get the house listed, you move into the sale, and you move into the transaction process, or you move in the listing process, or you move into the engagement process where you've got to depend on other people to follow up and talk to them. Sometimes that person who's got to follow up and talk to them, contract person, the invoice person, may not be the best on the phones, may not understand that person, and could create maybe a tense situation into something worse. So you've got to know your role. You've got to know what you're good at.
And that's why it goes down to training. If you're going to work for a sales company, it all boils down to their training. If they train you how to, like, this is what you should look to expect. This is going to happen. How do you deal with the situation? Are you capable of handling people in this situation? If you can't, I'm not saying you're not hired. We might have another position for you. But I need to know if you're able to accomplish this, and this, because experience has proven that this is all going to happen. And we want to nip everything in the bud right now.
And you got to have those qualified employees. It's just like qualifying a client out there. You can't have a lazy necessarily transaction coordinator. You can't have a lazy listing agent. You can't have a lazy buyer agent. And the other thing too, even if you've got, say, a person who's setting appointments out there, because I remember in the lawn industry, I worked for a company that we worked in a call center, and we tried to set appointments for these guys to come by and grade their yard and stuff. And and the salesmen that would go door to door, I mean, they just promised so many sky and the high promises.
Overpromised.
Oh yeah, they were just. I mean, that was the thing. It was nauseating. You'd see this every day, day in and day out, and so you've got to be able to educate not only your listing agent, the transaction coordinator, but you're finding out a lot of things when you talk to them. So how do you deal with making sure that as part of a team that you've got people, focused on their roles, focused on what they need to do?
Well, really, accountability, and I'd hate to admit it, but it's the truth. The best way to hold someone accountable is by using software that's going to hold your agents accountable. For example, I want everything recorded.
Really?
If you're going to set an appointment, it's not a valid appointment unless that call's recorded. Because I want to make sure this buyer's agent or this listing agent can hear a recording prior to going to that event, and they know exactly what to expect. And then that way, if something pops up, they can't be like, oh, well, the person that called me said this. They can be like, well, no, they didn't.
Well, and that's a valuable tool to have before you go on a listing appointment. You go out there on that cold call, or you go out on that sales call that, you've listened to the phone call that set that up.
We call it quality assurance.
Sure.
Even if it takes 15 minutes for you to listen to that recording, is it worth the extra money in your bank account you're going to get from it?
Oh, it is,
and
people.
You would be surprised how many people are like, oh, I'm not going to listen to it.
Well, and that's the thing, Mark, out there in your experience with something like that. I mean, does that facilitate? I mean, having that recording and having people implement it, does it facilitate for a much more profitable team? Does it a much happier work experience?
Absolutely, yes. And the reason why is, for me, if I'm telling the customer something and creating an expectation, and my listing agent goes out there and can't back up everything I say,
oh no.
Well, one, the customer caught me in a lie, so they're immediately not going to list. And two, if there's something that I'm saying that the listing agent doesn't want me to say, or says, hey, this is my trump card, like, say it if you have to, but like, this is my trump card, this is how we're going to get the deal, this is our strategy. Everybody needs to be on the same page. So for example, if I say, hey, this is going to be a tough appointment, this is what he said, here's the recording for yourself, I did everything that, A+ performance by me. Asked for the appointment 5 times, rebutted 5 times,
learn
got
from
the deal.
Learn from it.
You're gonna be like, okay, cool, all right, and you're gonna classify that as a good lead.
Oh, you are. And that's the thing too, Mark. When you have facilitate great communication between everybody, that's the thing that gets in the way sometimes of great teams or personalities.
And egos. You have to
You
have to let go of your ego. Everyone's going to screw up. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you sold $1 trillion in real estate or any other thing. You have to learn to be humble and then trust your teammates. And if you're not comfortable with the people that are on your team, you need to find out, is it you or is it them, and then how can we make it better?
And that's the thing. In my experience, if I wasn't comfortable with somebody on my team, if I had the power, I would just say, okay, you got to go work somewhere else. I mean, it's just not going to be a good fit, because that's the thing, is trust your gut instinct at times. Because, I mean, especially when it comes to making sure that if you're running a business out there, managing a business, managing a sales team, and your paycheck depends on being productive, you don't want people out there that you can't communicate with very well, the people that you can't talk to very well, people that you can't motivate very well, because if you have that anxiety over talking to them, what's left?
Yeah, and I talked to a guy today up in Kansas City. He runs a building. He builds houses and does all sorts of stuff.
Right.
And he's like, I pay some of my guys $25-$30 an hour. Mm-hmm. The guy that's in charge, he's been doing it for 25 years, but I'm still skeptical about what he does sometimes.
Really?
He goes, yeah. He's like, I wish I could leave a camera and monitor everyone, but I still have these doubts. Even though he's worked for me for 25 years,
he still just doesn't.
I know he's fucking around sometime, but I just don't know when and where.
Right, and he has to figure out how to catch him or how to get him in the act, or figure out what he needs to do to make the next move to either get rid of the guy or something.
Or at the same time, he might say, well, wait a second, why am I thinking this thought? Did this thought just pop in my head and I'm just making some shit up and I'm jumping to conclusions that aren't really true?
Right.
Maybe this guy is working his ass off. Mm-hmm. Maybe this guy is worth the $30 an hour I'm paying him.
Right.
This guy has been here 25 years.
The results show, yeah.
Maybe, I just jumped to an unreasonable conclusion. I'm going to get rid of this thought in my head, and until I get actual facts, I'm not going to think about it anymore. Right,
and that's what you have to do. I mean, anytime you started with team members and working day-to-day stuff, and things go south and things aren't working like they're supposed to be. I mean, you've got to find out who's accountable, who's responsible, without getting emotional, without just jumping to conclusions over something necessarily, until you find that out. And then once you find that out, problem solved. Scratch that off the list and move on.
Yeah, move on to the next thing on the list, because that list is always going to grow. Your list is never going to stop. There's always going to be things that you're going to have to look into. Always. It doesn't matter if it's someone with, someone you work with, a client, a potential prospect, your at-home atmosphere.
Right.
Your car breaks down on the way to work. There's always something. Kids have a football game they got to go to. Daughters got a gymnastics thing, school function.
Something will always get in the way, man. Yeah. Something will always get in the way.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's all how you handle it, too.
Right.
If you handle it, like if you say, okay, if you stop and say, okay, problem number one is this, I'm going to isolate the issue, and then I'm going to, quote unquote, contain it or quarantine it, right?
Well, and don't you want to also consider the point of view of each team member?
Yeah. Like, for example, let's say I'm doing sign calls, for the longest time, I did just regular outbound phone work for real estate. And then when I got into getting inbound calls just a few years ago, it really changed my perspective. It's like, wow. I've got to learn some new pitches.
Sure.
I've got to learn how to rebuttal this, and this. And I've got to learn to create expectations to convert these leads.
Right.
And, that excited me because it's like, I love a new challenge.
Now, did you no doubt. Now, did you come into this challenge just kind of organically? Did somebody say, hey, Mark, do this? What made that change?
Well, it was just one of those things where, you've got your phone number on so many websites and someone tried to call someone, couldn't reach someone, so you were the next person on the list.
Right.
And you fell into it.
Right.
And you did a good job. Right. So they're like, well, hey, why don't we just transfer everything on over to you?
Over to you, yeah. Well, and that makes sense. I mean, on the one hand, that makes sense, because then you've got an opportunity to learn and grow, and do things, the way you would like to see them done, test ideas, try ideas, see what works, see what doesn't.
Play on
self-evaluate,
chance. Yeah, like I never would have got the opportunity if the fluke never happened. Was the fluke from God? Was it just a fluke?
Right.
But the owner saw profitability in that, and they're like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We got people bitching about getting certain calls. We're just going to give them all to you because you do it so good.
Right. Exactly.
By the way, if you convert these really well, I'm going to pay you really well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Sign here.
So Mark, just so people understand, and to close up this little segment here, understand what your skill is at work. Understand what you do well. Evaluate and train, role play, communicate. I mean, that's the number one thing that would eliminate so many distractions at work is communicating effectively, no matter what that is. If it's talking, listening to a cold call, reviewing information that's there, you've got to be able to do that and consider the point of view of each person and what they're bringing to the table.
I agree with that 100%, Jason, and I think you hit the nail on the head on that.
I hit the nail right on the head, man. I mean, if you couldn't hit a nail on the head any truer than that, I just did.
Well, you know where you can find more nails and heads?
Where is that, Mark? That is a great segue, man.
Facebook.com/ISA Talk. Facebook.com/ISA Talk.
Are you struggling to close deals? Do you want to become a more effective negotiator? Are your goals to increase your sales? Well, for as little as $5 a month, you can accomplish this by becoming a subscriber to Real Inside Sales Talk. Get access to our secret Facebook group where you can talk with Mark and Jason and other salespeople who are also working to achieve their goals and dreams. And not just access to the secret Facebook group. You get access to our weekly newsletters, special bonus live content, and most importantly, a one-on-one coaching call with Mark and Jason. $5 a month gets you a half-hour call, $10 a month gets you a 1-hour call, and $25 a month gets you a 1-hour coaching call each quarter. So get an advantage over the competition today and get some coaching. Go to realinsidesalestalk.com/subscribe and sign up today.
Coming up this week, we're going to have our first guest, mystery guest. Find out on our Facebook page, maybe. Keep track of us there. Check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/ISA Talk to find out more information.
This episode is also brought to you by Vulcan 7. Vulcan 7 is the #1 dialer for real estate agents looking to call expired and for sale by owners. Look up vulcan7.com/real inside sales talk. Register today for a 4-month trial at a discounted rate. It'll say private registration Mark.
Hey, Mark, I want to bring up for our next topic here, and here's the thing about it. It's a broad topic, but we're going to focus on just kind of a narrow set of things, and that is, what is a database? Okay, are you actually not what is a database? Are you managing your database effectively? Are you using your database? Because our database is our ATM, right?
Pretty much.
Exactly. We go there when we need money and we need to talk to people. So what is the first thing you think of when you think of your database?
The leads.
Right. Leads in your database. Now, one thing we need to define in everybody's database out there, because a lot of us have a bad habit of just like writing down names on a piece of paper, putting them on your desk, taking a business card, saying, oh, I should have talked to that guy when I was at the soccer event tonight, and I didn't do that. So I need to know, first of all, what is a lead? So
lead is someone that has their first name, last name, phone number, email address, and a description of why they have contacted you. For example, I'm interested in buying this house. Can I see it at 4?
They've given you a bunch of buy signals. They've really expressed their interest.
Yes.
They're asking great questions. They're asking questions you like, Mark, I need to move, in the next 2 weeks. I've got to move relocate from, Colorado here to Missouri. I need a house. So that would be a hot lead, right?
Okay, yeah, and then I'm going to ask my pre-qualifying questions right then and there, and I'm going to go for it. I mean, that sounds like a really good lead. There's leads, and then there's contacts.
Right.
Okay?
Great point. Great point, Mark.
My database, let's say it has 500,000 people in it, but 400,000 of those people, what was that? What was that, Jake?
Cheers, everybody.
Welcome to Real Inside Sales Talk. Yeah, you're going to need a beer for this conversation.
Yeah, that you are. You really are. Okay.
You really are. So when it comes to your database...
And let's just say the difference between what a lead is and what a contact is. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So the difference between a lead and a contact. A lead is someone that shows interest in your product in one way, shape, or form. Either a phone call, a text message, a comment on a social media post, or an email.
Right,
okay?
right.
That is or a walk-in. Okay?
Right.
That is a lead.
Right.
A contact is you have someone's information. They don't remember anything about you. They don't know you're going to be calling.
Right.
We call them cold leads.
Cold leads, exactly.
Yeah. So, for example, let's say you have a database of 500,000 people.
Right.
But only 80,000 of those have actually raised their hand as a lead
and said, I wanted to buy, I'm ready to go, walked onto
ready
the
to
car
sell,
lot, got out of their car.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
I need a roof. I need some concrete work done. I need to cut down this tree.
They initiated business
some
with you.
Sort of business.
Yeah.
So if you have, again, 500,000 contacts, but only 80,000 of them are actual leads,
right?
How big is your database really then?
It really is, and that's a great point, because then how are you working that database? Because if you have to define, like you just said, what is a lead, what is a contact, is that lead somebody who's ready to buy even in the next year? Do you want to take it out that far? Somebody who's wanting to buy the next 60 days, actually, or even not so much their timeline, are they even interested in buying? Because if let's just say, for example, I'm a high-end luxury, home salesperson, I'm not necessarily going to be marketing to a crowd that only makes, $100,000 a year or less. I'm going to be marketing to a higher end demographic. I'm going to do everything I can to put myself in a position to be around that type of demographic. So to me, if I'm at the grocery store and I meet Bob, who I know is the executive VP of the Chamber of Commerce, and then I meet Joe, who's the guy that, mows my lawn, and this is not a judgment on anybody, it's my demographic that I'm targeting is Bob, the Chamber of Commerce VIP, because I know he's going to be in the demographic to buy that $1 million home and up. Whereas, I'll still sell to Joe the lawnmower guy, but I'm going to sell him a lower end piece of property. So I need to know exactly where I need to concentrate, and that's where I get my money from the big end, then I need to focus my efforts there.
Yeah, pick and choose your battles, and be okay with talking to Joe. Be okay with talking to 1,000 Joes who mow your lawn and selling all those people to that one whale that buys that one property, because those little sales add up too.
Well, and if your focus is, say, on high-end luxury homes, you could develop a team where you could, delegate the lower-end people that you're networking with, because then that way a lead to you, your leads. If you're out there starting your own business, and I say, hey, Mark, it's great to know you. It's great to do business with you. Who else do you know? And you give me 2 or 3 names. I contact those people. And while they might not be in my specific target demographic, my team that's working for me, I've got Jimmy, I've got Sally, I've got Johnny over here that are young and hungry and ready to come up and want to do something. And I'm going to give them those leads as well. So then they know, okay, here's what I'm working with. Here's the lead that I'm working with. And you make a great point, too, of the information you need from that person. Not only name, contact, phone number. Do they have a website, that Facebook page? How many Facebook pages do you get of people?
I have 3 personal Facebook pages. I have my own, I have my real estate one, and then we have Real Inside Sales Talk.
Of potential clients, how many of them do you know on Facebook?
Of potential clients, I would say probably less than 100.
Or even clients and potential clients.
Well, I have a love-hate relationship with social media.
Sure.
There's that time where, you want just like your closest, 300 friends. And then you have the time where you have like 2,000 people on your Facebook page and you don't know who. So I'd rather keep my Facebook profile closed and private. That way I limit it to the people that really influence me.
Well, and one of the points I wanted to make was, especially with social media, if you're able to, what I think is an important aspect of managing your database and knowing how to use your database is having good intelligence, having good information on your potential clients, your clients and potential clients. You've got to know your clients' significant events, birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, all of that. You've got to be, if you know that one of the grandkids is about to have a baby, or they're newlyweds and they move into this apartment or move into this house that you just sold them, you've got to know a year later, bang, here's their anniversary for that, here's the birthdays for this. And also, that's the social media aspect I'll dig into a little bit later. But one thing that I would suggest every realtor out there do, following up is something that not every salesperson out there actively does or actively thinks about doing. It's time consuming to, get thank you envelopes. It's time consuming to, make that extra effort. And that's where doing the hard work goes into play, and that's why managing your database is so crucial, because there's a lot of automation in the world, Mark. And for example, if you have an iPhone, okay, let's say this is for the lazy people out there, I'm giving you a tip, so free one from Jason. Got an iPhone out there, okay? You talk to a prospect, all right? In that iPhone, when you add their contact information, because I'm expecting you to get their name and all of that and their address, you type in whether they're a hot lead, cool lead, or ABC lead or whatever.
Expectations. Call back 90 days. Right. Call back September.
Whatever little code word you need to put in there to make the keyword. Then that way, each day when you open up your iPhone and go to your contacts,
don't answer.
That way, when you open up your iPhone and go to your contacts and type in search, you can type in hot leads, cold leads, normal leads, B buyers, A buyers, C buyers, and it'll pull up all of those people, and you can start calling them just immediately.
Yeah, you have your database managed, you have everything, you have your priorities set, you have your expectations set, and you're not going to let anything go through the cracks.
No.
A good database is something that prevents leads from falling through the cracks.
Exactly. That's a great point, Mark.
It is. Whether it's an email campaign, a text message campaign, a calling campaign, even if it's a door knocking campaign where you go and personally visit all your clients on one specific day.
You've got to have those reminders each day. Otherwise, you're not going to even, no matter what you're using, especially if you're using, what do you hate most, Mark? Is
the thing I hate most is pen and paper.
Really? Why do you hate pen and paper?
Well, I mean, you're going to lose it. You're going to wash it. It's going to crumble. It's the durability of the paper.
It's not going to get there. It's not going to get to the information.
Even if I write on my hand, I'm going to wash my hands when I go to the bathroom.
It's amazing. That's the thing, is Mark, is people don't utilize that device that's clutched in their grip every day.
Yeah.
There are so many things you can do with it.
Yeah, it's, calendars. Why do you have a manual calendar when you can have it online?
Right.
You can't accidentally not forget to do something if it's
Right.
online and you've got notifications set up.
Right.
That's going to hold you accountable.
Right.
You're either an accountable person or you're not.
Right, and we're not knocking completely people who use paper calendars, because I'm guilty of that
People
myself,
are old
Mark.
school.
You know me. I always
Smoke
walk around.
signals,
Yeah.
right, telepathy.
Well,
right.
and again, I've embraced technology because I was, that's the thing is I've embraced technology and I've seen where it uses for me. I was resistant to it at first because you just don't think it's necessarily reliable, or it's like I'm right-handed. Let's see how long it takes me to practice writing with my left hand and do it proficiently. That's what entering information into a computer or a tablet was like for me. I could write it down quicker, but it didn't give me the automations. It didn't give me the reminders. It didn't give me the chance to say, hey, this person is also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Would you like to connect with them now? It didn't give me that opportunity. The calendar, the paper calendar, the Rolodex can't do that for you. Yeah. That's the point. Because knowing what your database is worth, because
if
you're able to cycle through your database each year and consistently and doing what you need to do, and you do all of these things like knowing their significant events, reaching out to them where you can.
How is that operation?
If you work in a small market, you see them in the grocery store, make sure you say hi to them in the grocery store. If you work in a large market and people are a little more apprehensive socially, physically encountered in real life, you've got to respect that. Different markets do different things. Whatever market you're in, with the people that you're in the database that you're managing and what you're selling to, you've got to understand the fact of what's this client's motivation? What do I know about them? Because knowing about them going in, that was the thing I had thirsted for, was who is my client? What are they about? What is their motivation? Are they married? Do they have kids? Where did they go to college? What have they done in their career? How successful has they been? LinkedIn is an incredible tool for everybody out there in your database, because
salesmen selling salesmen.
Well, not only salesmen selling sales, but you say there's this client you got that's, I want to buy a $2 million home, please. Okay, and once you get a little information from him and he says, well, I've been the CEO of blah, 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 and you look up LinkedIn, and even in this day and age, you got to be on LinkedIn, man. Yeah, because I've got the good intelligence we created. You've got to define a lead first for every team, everybody that you're selling.
You have to have a follow-up game plan. Every good database has a follow-up game plan. How are you going to follow up with certain leads? Right. And be okay with creating extra categories. Yeah.
Well, and then let's get to kind of one of the final components of managing your database. And we're going to have an episode completely dedicated to this particular topic, but choosing the right CRM, okay?
It's such a big thing. I know we've talked about it a lot, but so many people don't understand how complex and how many CRMs you have to test.
Can I give you a little?
You got to watch the training videos. You've got to test it for yourself. You got to look for how would I implement my business into the CRM. Are these features worth paying for, or is this just another CRM with a different skin?
Right.
And there's a lot of companies that create multiple CRMs, but it's all the same company. It's just different skins.
Well, here's a little thing, Mark. When I was back in software development, and I actually developed. When I was back in software development, my software development days, we were one of the first people. Salesforce had just come on the scene.
They're huge.
We were one of the first people to really start doing intelligent CRMs. I looked at it from the point of view of who is the first person that the customer will be contacting at the company, and what information does that employee need to know when the customer comes in and contacts them. That's right where I started. So that means if Bob came in and was looking for XYZ widget, and he went up to, Billy at the counter and said, hey, do you have XYZ widget? Well, Billy would be able to, first of all, find XYZ widget. But then second of all, because of the CRM system that we had developed and its ability to record information, he knew that Bob was a customer from 8 months ago and he buys these widgets regularly. You start from step one is what is the first contact going to be interacting with? You're an ISA. Okay, first contact you have with them is qualifying them and setting that appointment. And there's XYZ bits of information you need to know. Once you kick that over to the person who's, actually goes and closes the deal and gets them listed or, finds them a house, they have a whole other set of things that they need to know about people, because then they start digging deeper. So a CRM, I don't think right now there's really a good one size fits all. I mean, Infusion's pretty close, but it's I mean, that's high-end CRM there, but it does a lot of things. So I think as a team, no matter what your size, you've got to first of all just break down what the priorities are in a CRM that you need. You know, are you focused on a lot of cold calling? Do you have a lot of inbound calls? Do you have a lot of walk-in customers? Do you have a lot of people that just go out and bang door to door? Are you car salespeople? Are you people that expect people from the public just walking in that it's hard for even to get a phone number from them?
Well, even car salespeople, it's like, oh, this is the guy that buys 50 cars a year. I need to wine and dine this guy, cut him a break here and there to get that potential business. And I'm going to let my manager know, hey, this is who he is. This is how important he is. And we got to treat him this way because you have to look for patterns. Like success comes in patterns.
Well, it's a CRM being able to constantly reevaluate yourself and your performance each day and provide you with reports that don't take you, 3 weeks to compile and put together. And when you're able to see that data instantly at the end of each day, it's like putting out a profit and loss statement.
Or at the end of for our CRM, for tax purposes.
Right.
Who closed this deal? How much did they make? How much did we pay out? Everything is logged. So come tax time, everything is already done because it's all been logged as it happened.
Exactly.
And it makes so much.
Well, that's the thing automation means so much these days. Well, it is. It means so much these days because you can do so many things with it.
Well, too, we need to talk about the negative side effects of CRMs.
Mark, there's one thing that I want to bring up, though.
And databases.
Mark, there's one thing that I want to bring up, though, to just close us out here. And I hate to tell people, but Mark, there's a dark side to CRMs, aren't there?
Yeah.
It's a dark place.
Automated drip campaigns that people know are fake. Like everybody gets an automated drip campaign. As soon as you register on a website and you get that first instant email, it's like, computer generated.
Come on.
You know, what I've noticed is, wait a day or two.
Right.
It seems more normal.
Right. You know what I found out when I've dealt with
and you don't seem as desperate.
And that's the one thing when I found out when we were developing mailing lists, and this is way back early 2000s computer stuff. That was the thing. You did not want to seem. You always wanted to get past. Well, not only that, but you need to get past the spam filters. And one of the downsides I see in CRMs these days, it's so automated. Google blocks that stuff. If you're using a Gmail or Yahoo account, they're going to block you 8 times out of 10. Email's not even going to get through.
Yeah, or think about it this way: is it better that I copy and paste a message, 50 times rather than letting a CRM send it out?
And when you subscribe to the Real Inside Sales Talk newsletter, you get a personal message.
You do, and
I talked about desperation last time.
It's desperation. People sense it up front.
Right.
People are logging on multiple websites, getting multiple emails from lots of different companies. You're just someone else that's different than everyone else.
So what I've discovered in those CRMs, you have to really open the hood with that thing, dig down deep in there, and change a lot of those settings. I mean, some of them are there's good CRMs out there. I won't knock them that. But a lot of them, because Google changes its SEO and its rankings so often, and its mail, the algorithms get changed so often that it's hard for CRMs to keep up. It's hard for CRMs to keep up with the changing in the algorithm. And if you do too much automation with your CRM, you're going to run into problems with Google actually relaying.
And I just want to get back to the basics. How do you develop a great CRM? How do you get all these leads categorized? You call them. You text them, you email them, you door knock them, you handwritten note to them. Mm-hmm. You do anything possible to get information to build that CRM. And here's the thing too: you're gonna go through your not interested list, 50 times. You're gonna go through your trash list. Mm-hmm. And you're going to find business in it. There's a lot of people that call a lead once and like, trash, these leads suck.
Well, even though...
And then I call it, I'm like, hey, and they're like, yeah, I'm totally doing this.
The ability is for you to have that information at hand immediately when you need it. That's the ultimate goal of a CRM. That's what you want to be able to
go-to.
Right.
When you don't know where your next lead's coming from, that is where you're digging
and there's good and bad to each. So stay tuned. Next week or so, we're going to have an episode all about CRM.
We're going to do our best. There's so much. Like Jason said, you've got Fusion or Infusion. You've got Boomtown, Top Producers, Sync. You've got Land Voice. Mojo's looking on building a big CRM.
Yep. Salesforce,
huge. Yes. They do everything.
Yeah. And then that's not even the really big companies like SAP and stuff like that that do the huge multinational sorts of, sales contact management systems. So people stay tuned out there. We're going to have a lot of cool things coming up. The next thing we're excited about is having a guest on.
Yeah, that's true. We're going to have a guest on, which you're going to want to hear that episode.
And thank you for listening to Real Inside Sales Talk with Mark and Jason. We appreciate it. You can find us out there at realinsidesalestalk.com. You can find us on Facebook at realinsidesalestalk.com/ISA.
Yeah, find us online at facebook.com/ISA Talk, and for just $5 a month, you can subscribe to us. We give you newsletters, we give you inside rebuttals, we
bonus
give
content,
you bonus episodes, all the fun stuff that comes with just a $5 a month subscription. Tell your friends about us, Real Inside Sales Talk. Thanks again for listening to Real Inside Sales Talk with Mark and Jason. We're out.